She wasn't just cheating, she was building something in the shadows, using my money and my trust as her foundation. For months I thought I was losing my mind, seeing ghosts in our bank accounts and whispers of a life I wasn't part of. But the truth was far more sinister than a simple affair. It was a calculated, devastating betrayal that threatened to destroy everything I had ever worked for. This is a financial crime investigation that started in my own bedroom. Listen to my story to find out how I turned the tables and exposed the devastating secret she thought she'd buried forever. If you enjoyed this video or found it helpful, go ahead and give it a like. It really helps me out. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any future videos. Thanks a bunch! The first thread I pulled was a receipt for a hotel I'd never heard of, tucked into the pocket of a blazer she'd worn to a work conference in Dallas. The Marlowe, it sounded expensive. I didn't think much of it at first. Evelyn's corporate law firm often put her up in lavish places. But something about the date felt wrong. It was a Saturday. Her conference, she'd said, ended on Friday. I stood there in the walk-in closet of our quiet, sprawling home in a suburb just outside of Austin, Texas, the smell of cedar and Evelyn's Chanel perfume hanging in the air. We had everything we'd ever dreamed of. A 4-bedroom house we designed ourselves, a shared office with a server farm in the basement for my freelance graphic design business, 2 matching Teslas in the garage. From the outside, we were the portrait of modern success. Inside, a strange cold draft had been blowing for the better part of a year. "Where's the Marlowe?" I asked her later that night, trying to keep my voice casual as she scrolled through her phone. A glass of Pinot Noir balanced perfectly in her hand. She didn't look up. "It's a boutique hotel downtown." "Why?" "This receipt says Dallas," I said, my heart starting to thrum a little faster. Her thumb stopped scrolling. She slowly lifted her eyes to meet mine, and her expression was one of bored, mild annoyance. "Turns out right. The Dallas one. The firm has an account with the whole chain." "Alex, what is this about?" The way she said my name, it was like I was a child who'd interrupted her. You said the conference ended Friday." "The receipt is for Saturday night." She sighed, a long theatrical exhalation. "The partners invited a few of us to stay for a celebratory dinner. It ran late. They comped the room. Is that okay with you? Do I need to submit my expense reports to you now, alongside the firm's accounting department?" There it was, that subtle twist of the knife. In one smooth motion, she turned my valid question into a paranoid accusation of jealousy and control. She made me feel small, like my concern wasn't about the inconsistency, but about my own insecurity. It was a tactic she'd become a master of. I felt the familiar heat of shame creep up my neck. I was being ridiculous. Of course there was a simple explanation. "And no, of course not," I mumbled, retreating to my side of the couch. I was just curious. But the thread was pulled. And once you pull a thread, you can't help but follow it, even if you know it might unravel everything you're holding on to. The next few weeks, I lived in a state of quiet, agonizing hypervigilance. I started noticing things I'd previously dismissed. The way she angled her phone away from me, the sudden influx of late-night emergency calls from the office, the new, expensive lingerie she'd bought but never worn for me. I felt like I was going crazy, seeing shadows in every corner. Every time I'd bring up my unease, she'd deploy her arsenal of psychological warfare with chilling precision. "You seem really on edge lately, honey," she'd say, her voice dripping with faux concern as she touched my arm. "Maybe all that time alone in the basement is getting to you. You should get out more." It was gaslighting, pure and simple. She was framing my legitimate suspicions as a symptom of my own isolation and mental instability. The cognitive dissonance was tearing me apart. This was Evelyn, the woman I'd met in a crowded coffee shop during SXESW, the brilliant, ambitious law student who'd laughed at my stupid jokes. The woman who'd held my hand when my father died. We had built this life brick by brick. My design business paid for the down payment on this house. Her soaring salary as a senior associate was turning our dreams into reality. We were a team, or so I thought. The person I loved couldn't possibly be the same person who was making me feel like I was losing my grip on reality. The breaking point came on a Tuesday afternoon. Evelyn was in court. I was working on a branding package for a tech startup, but my focus was shot. The thread was itching in my mind. I logged into our joint savings account, the one we were using to save for an eventual summer home. Or at least, that's what I thought we were using it for. I saw a transfer, $25,000. It had been moved out of the savings account and into our joint checking account a month ago. I then looked at the checking account history. A few days after the transfer, there was a wire payment for exactly $25,000 to an entity I didn't recognize. TJV Ventures, LLC. My blood ran cold. JV Ventures. It sounded like nothing. A generic, faceless corporate name. But it wasn't a bill. It wasn't a mortgage payment. It was a massive, unexplained expenditure. My hands were shaking as I opened a new browser tab. I searched for GV Ventures, LLC, Texas. The search results were sparse. A simple registration with the Texas Secretary of State. The registered agent was a faceless legal service. But there was one managing member listed. Julian Vance. The name hit me like a physical blow. Julian Vance, a senior partner at Evelyn's firm. A handsome, silver-haired man in his late 50s, known for his ruthless litigation style and his very public, very messy divorce a year ago. He was the one who, according to Evelyn, had hosted that celebratory dinner in Dallas. I felt the floor drop out from under me. This wasn't just a hotel receipt. This wasn't just a late night at the office. This was a secret shared financial entity. This was collusion. I started digging, my graphic designer's eye for detail now a forensic tool. I used our shared cloud storage, a service I had set up and managed, to search for his name. I found nothing in the main directories, but I was the one who set up the automatic backups from all our devices. I knew about the hidden system folders, the places where deleted files sometimes linger. In a deep, forgotten archive folder from Evelyn's laptop, I found it. A subfolder, cryptically named Assets. Inside was a single password-protected PDF. My heart hammered against my ribs. I tried the usual passwords. Our anniversary. Her mother's maiden name. The name of her childhood dog. Nothing. Then, a thought struck me. A cold, cynical one. I typed it in. To Marloweon. The document opened. It wasn't a love letter. It wasn't a collection of illicit photos. It was worse. It was a business plan. A detailed multi-phase proposal for a series of real estate acquisitions using shell corporations to purchase undervalued commercial properties, funded by a combination of a private loan from Julian and initial seed capital. The seed capital amount listed was $150,000. My eyes scanned the document, my mind struggling to process the words. This was a full-blown financial operation. And then I saw the section on funding sources. It detailed a schedule of transfers. There were dates, amounts. $25,000 here, $50,000 there, a projected final transfer of $75,000, all sourced from what was labeled high personal liquidity. Personal liquidity. I scrolled back to the first page, to the authors of the proposal. Julian Vance and Evelyn Reed, my wife. The affair was just the cover story. It was the mundane, sordid, easily digestible explanation for the late nights and the secret trips. The real secret, the one they were hiding, wasn't just about cheating. It was about crime. She wasn't just cheating on me. She was systematically embezzling our shared future to fund a secret business with her partner. I looked around my office, at the sleek desk I'd built myself, at the framed awards on the wall from design competitions. All of it, the house, the business, the life I thought was mine, felt like a stage set. A prop in her long, elaborate con. The learned helplessness I'd been feeling for months, the feeling that I was powerless and confused, evaporated. It was replaced by a cold, sharp, terrifying clarity. I wasn't going crazy, I was being played. And the game was far bigger and more dangerous than I could have ever imagined. She hadn't just broken my heart, she had made me an unwitting accomplice in her financial schemes. She had used my trust, my work, and my money as the foundation for her secret empire. The anger came next, but it wasn't hot and explosive. It was ice. It was the chilling, profound realization that the woman I slept next to every night was a complete stranger. And I knew, sitting there in the hum of my servers, that a simple confrontation wouldn't be enough. Yelling and crying would accomplish nothing. She would just gaslight me again, twist the facts and call me hysterical. No. To beat a shark like Evelyn, you don't bleed in the water, you build a better cage. My expertise wasn't in law, but in information, in presentation, in taking a mountain of complex data and turning it into a clear, compelling, and undeniable story. And I was about to create the most important project of my entire life. The next month was an exercise in the most profound and painful duplicity I have ever experienced. On the surface, I became the perfect, supportive husband she had always claimed to want. I stopped questioning her late nights. I'd greet her with a smile and a hot meal when she came home, feigning exhaustion. I'd listen intently as she complained about a difficult case or a demanding client, all the while knowing she was likely coming from a meeting with Julian, planning how to siphon more of our money away. It was a trauma bond being forged in reverse. Every act of kindness I performed was a strategic move, a way to keep her guard down while I built my case against her. I transformed our basement office into my war room. By day, I completed my client work, keeping our income stream steady. By night, I became a forensic accountant. I used my knowledge of our home's network infrastructure to my advantage. I set up a packet sniffer on our router, a piece of software that allowed me to silently capture and log all the data traffic. It was a legal gray area, but it was our shared home network, and I was desperate. The data started to trickle in. Fragments of emails sent from a private encrypted server. Financial transactions logged through obscure portals. I started to piece together the mosaic. JV Ventures was just the tip of the iceberg. There were 2 other LTs, registered in Delaware, a state notorious for its corporate secrecy. She was layering their transactions, moving money from one shell company to another to obscure its origin. Our money. The most damning evidence came from an accidentally synced voice memo on her tablet. It was a 20-minute recording of a conversation between her and Julian. I listened to it with headphones on, the world shrinking to just their 2 voices, laced with arrogance and condescension. "He's getting suspicious," Evelyn's voice said, sounding annoyed. "I'm tossed about the Marlowe receipt." Julian's deep laugh echoed in my ears. "Let him. What's he going to do? He's an artist, Ev. He thinks in colors and fonts, not in leverage and exposure. Tell him he's being paranoid. He'll believe it. He needs to believe it. His whole identity is wrapped up in being the supportive, sensitive husband." My fists clenched so hard my knuckles turned white. He had me pegged. He was using my own nature, the very things Evelyn once claimed to love about me, as a weapon against me. "He found the transfer to JV," she continued. "Kai told him it was a high-yield investment fund the firm recommended. He bought it." "Of course he did," Julian said, his voice smooth as silk. "He trusts you. That's his fatal flaw. Just get the last $75K moved over. Once it's in the Delaware account, it's clean. We can close on the warehouse district property. By the time your sensitive husband figures out what's really going on, we'll be 3 steps ahead, and the money will be untouchable." They went on to discuss the logistics, their tone shifting from lovers to cold, calculating business partners. There was no passion, only greed. The affair was a perk, a convenience. The real intimacy was in the crime. That recording was my Rosetta Stone. I now had intent. I had conspiracy. I spent the next 2 weeks working with a singular obsessive focus. I created a new, encrypted hard drive, completely firewalled from our home network. On it, I began to build my project. It wasn't a dossier of betrayal. It was a formal, professional-grade presentation. I used my design skills to create flowcharts that tracked every single dollar, from our joint savings account, through the shell companies, to its final destination. I created timelines, annotated bank statements, and cross-referenced every transaction with her calendar and travel records. I embedded snippets of the audio recording into the presentation, time-stamped to correspond with specific financial transfers. I designed it to be irrefutable, a story so clear and damning that no lawyer, no matter how brilliant, could twist it. I called the project file, simply, the Reed Vance Portfolio. The boundary I needed to form wasn't a verbal one. It wasn't an argument or a line in the sand. It was this hard drive. This collection of cold, hard facts. This was my declaration of independence. The day I finished, I felt a strange sense of calm. The anger and hurt were still there, but they were now fuel, channeled into a precise and unstoppable purpose. I chose my moment carefully. It was the Thursday night. She had just closed a major case and was in a celebratory, arrogant mood. She came home, dropped her briefcase by the door, and poured herself a glass of champagne. "We destroyed them, Alex," she announced, a triumphant gleam in her eye. It was a masterpiece. I've been working on a masterpiece of my own, I said, my voice steady. I'd like you to see it. A flicker of confusion crossed her face. A new project. Is it that startup? Did you land them? Something like that, I said. Come downstairs. I want to present it to you. Intrigued, she followed me down to the office. I had the presentation loaded onto the large 4K monitor we use for client pitches. She sat in the leather client chair, a smirk on her face, ready to be impressed. I hit play. The first slide was the title, The Reed Vance Portfolio, an analysis of unauthorized capital transfer and asset concealment. Her smirk vanished. Her face went slack, the color draining from it. I didn't say a word. I just let the presentation run. The flowcharts appeared, lines of red connecting our accounts to her secret companies. The bank statements, with her transfers highlighted in yellow, flashed on the screen. Then, the audio began to play. Julian's voice, condescending and cruel, filled the silence of the basement. He's an artist, Ive. He thinks in colors and fonts. Evelyn shot to her feet. Turn it off. What is this? Did you spy on me? This is illegal. I paused the presentation and turned to face her. For the first time, I saw genuine fear in her eyes. The mask of the confident, powerful attorney was gone. All that was left was a cornered criminal. Is it more illegal than wire fraud, Evelyn? I asked, my voice dangerously quiet. Is it more illegal than conspiracy to commit financial crimes? I know about the LCS in Delaware. I know about the plan to acquire the Warehouse District properties. I know you've embezzled $150,000 from our shared accounts to fund it. It's all here. I tapped the monitor. Every date, every dollar, every lie. She stared at me, her mind clearly racing, searching for an angle, a way to gaslight her way out of this. But there was no way out. I hadn't confronted her with emotion. I had confronted her with a legal case, presented with the clarity of a designer. What do you want, Alex? She finally whispered, her voice trembling. A divorce? You want the house? Fine, take it. I almost laughed. She still thought this was a domestic dispute. Oh, Evelyn, this is so much bigger than that. You see, I realized that divorcing you wouldn't be enough. You just move on, take the hit, and continue your life with Julian. No. The injustice here isn't just that you cheated on me. It's that you committed serious felonies. And you used me, my home, and my trust to do it. I picked up a small, sleek memory stick from my desk. On it was a copy of the entire portfolio. Tomorrow morning, I said, holding it up, 2 copies of this presentation will be delivered. One will go to the senior managing partner of your firm. The other will go to the white-collar crime division of the Travis County District Attorney's Office. And just for good measure, a 3rd copy is being sent anonymously to Julian's ex-wife's divorce attorney. I hear she's still looking for hidden assets. The last traces of her composure shattered. She lunged for the memory stick, but I stepped back, holding it out of her reach. It's over, Evelyn, I said. Your new life, your secret empire, it's over. She sank into the chair, her face in her hands, and for the first time in years I saw her for who she truly was. A hollow, greedy person whose ambition had devoured her soul. There was no satisfaction in her tears, only a grim sense of finality. The aftermath was swift and brutal. The DA launched a full-scale financial crime investigation. The firm fired her immediately to distance themselves from the scandal. Julian was also fired and faced his own set of legal battles. The house was sold as part of the asset seizure, but I had already secured my own funds, the ones from my personal business account that she had never been able to touch. I moved into a loft apartment downtown, overlooking the city she had tried to conquer. Sometimes I feel a phantom pang of sadness for the man I was, the trusting husband who believed in the life we were building. But that man is gone. In his place is someone who learned, in the most brutal way possible, to read the fine print. I learned that true strength isn't about ignoring the threads that feel wrong. It's about having the courage to pull them, no matter where they lead. My revenge wasn't loud or explosive. It was quiet, meticulous, and absolute. It was a perfectly designed portfolio that took a criminal empire and reduced it to a single, undeniable truth. And that, I've come to realize, is its own kind of masterpiece.